We're going to start our look at advanced spanning tree features now, and I'm going to be more blunt with you than I usually am, even more straightforward. Putting these features in operation, you're going to find out it's very simple. Almost every feature has a way to enable it or disable it globally, or enable it or disable it on a port level, so you can make it exactly the way you need it as far as your switch goes. But the real key is knowing where to run these, where not to run these, where you can't run these, and why we're running them in the first place. That's what it's all about. So we're going to dive right in with PortFast. And someone taking this course just went to the next video and they saw PortFast. I'm glad it wasn't you, because you learn about PortFast in your CCNA studies, and it's like, okay, I know what it does. That's it. That's all we need to know. It's not all you need to know as far as what it does, and also it ties in quite often to other more complex features that we're going to look at in this same section of videos. So we need to know exactly what PortFast is doing and a couple of commands to go with it. So let's jump in. What PortFast does, it allows a port to running STP to go straight from blocking mode to forwarding mode. And when you see this for the first time, whether it's now or whether it's when your CCNA studies, like, you're kidding. You spend all that time talking about STP and how important it is and preventing switching loops and leave the timers alone and don't turn it on. And now you want to turn a couple of them off. You want to get rid of a couple of those oh so important modes. Well, yes, we do, but only in a specific situation. If you have a host that has trouble getting its IP address via DHCP, configuring PortFast on that host switch port may just clear up your problem. Because what happens is that 15-second learning stage and 15-second listening stage, they can get in the way of your host getting its address via DHCP. So it's almost impossible. I can't say quite impossible, but it's real close. It's almost impossible for a switching loop to form when you have a single port connected to a single host. It is a very, very small chance you're going to have a problem. So what we're doing basically is with PortFast, we're saying we're willing to take the 99.9999% chance that everything's going to be fine. We're going to use PortFast, and that'll help us cheat a little bit in order to get that host up and running. Now, we do have some warnings that you may or may not have seen before. So I'm going to work these on a live switch, and we're going to start with this interface I just looked at, which is Fast01. And it is connected to a host, so it's up and running. And spanning, we've looked at a couple of these options at the interface level, and now we're going to look at a couple more. We're going to look at BPDU filter in this section, BPDU guard. I think we're going to use the guard option there a couple of times as well. And right now we're going to use PortFast. So you would think with something this simple, how many options can there be? Fortunately, there are only two options, and one of them is disabling it. So I'm not really sure that even counts as an option. That's just turning it off. But you could do no spanning PortFast or spanning PortFast disable. That's fine. But now we have a version of it, or an option, where we can enable it on a trunk. So it sounds like the regular kind might not enable on a trunk. And boy, do we get a message that tells us that. Actually, we get a warning first, and then we get more of a calmer informational message. And what a warning this is. PortFast should only be enabled on ports connected to a single host, connecting hubs, concentrators, switches, bridges, etc. I love the etc. That's the ultimate cover your butt. Connecting anything else you can think of except for a single host to this interface when PortFast is enabled can cause temporary bridging loops. Use with caution. Caution in all uppercase so we know they're serious. I'm kind of surprised there aren't 25 exclamation points after it. PortFast, then, we are told, has been configured on the interface, but it will only have effect when the interface is in a non-trunking mode. So there's that reference to trunks again. We're being told you really don't want to put this on a trunk link. You don't want to put it on a port connected to another switch. And as a matter of fact, we're only going to enable it if you make this a non-trunking port. So, what we got to do since it's a lab? We got to try putting it on one of our trunk interfaces. So let's see at this point which ones we have here, 10 and 12. So I will go with 10. And we have the same two options, disable and trunk, and I will use trunk. And let's see if we have any kind of mushroom cloud or anything come up when we hit this. Nope. No mushroom cloud, just a warning. Port fast should only be enabled, etc. And there I go saying etc. But it's the exact same message we got before. So I'm going to see that and I'm going to think, you know what, maybe I should do Control A, move that cursor to the front and take it off. So you're not going to have any immediate problems, especially in a lab, because you don't have a whole lot of traffic flying around to cause a bridging loop yet. But it's a good idea, and especially in production networks, as Cisco has told us several times, by golly, keep that port fast away from your trunk. Now, you can enable and disable this feature on a global basis as well. And I want to show you this because there's a little contradiction in what they tell us and what the command description tells us. So here are a couple things. Again, we're going to look at backbone fast, loop guard, port fast we're going to work with right now. Uplink fast I think is the very next video. So spanning and then the name of the feature seems to be the way to go as far as the global command goes. So we will put port fast there. And a couple of options we haven't talked about yet, BPDU filter and BPDU guard. They're coming up in future videos in this section. Right now we want to concentrate on making it the default. Enable port fast by default on all access ports. Okay, no options there. And we get a warning, and it's pretty much the same before, but what this warning is telling us, this command enables port fast by default on all interfaces. You should now disable port fast explicitly on switch ports leading to hubs, switches, and bridges, as they may create temporary bridging loops. Okay, note here that it is saying it's enabled by default on all interfaces. And here it's saying enable port fast by default on all access ports. So I tell you what, we need to do a little verification. And let me show you, no pun intended, happy accident, the show spanning command. And we have all kinds of things we can look at with show spanning. Backbone fast, you can look at blocked ports, inconsistent ports. We're going to see some of those later in this section. Got some interface information here, path cost, route status and configurations, all kinds of great stuff here. This is why I like using iOS help when I don't even necessarily need it, because I like to see the other options I have. It's amazing how those stick in your head and come back up when you need them. However, there's nothing there about port fast. If you want to verify port fast on an interface, it's kind of long-winded. You need to do a show spanning interface, then put in what the interface is, and then enter, say, port fast. There's some good stuff here too, but that's what you need to see. Show spanning interface faster. It's going to tell you what VLANs are on it and what VLANs port fast is enabled for, and by default it's going to be all of them. So let's try that with interface 0/3, which is also leading to a host. And it's going to tell you enabled, but let's look at one of our trunks. It's disabled there. So you don't need to see that one message and panic about it, but you might want to go ahead anyway and do take it off of your trunks. Do a no spanning tree port fast, but you can see it was on the one interface, but it's not showing up otherwise in the configuration. So just a little contradiction there in what they tell us. But when we verified it, there's our spanning tree port fast default command at the very top. And spanning tree port fast is appearing here on 0/1 because I put it on there manually. You're not going to see spanning tree port fast under every single interface. You need to check the top of it and see if it's on by default or not. And just run again, show spanning interface fast 0/whatever or gig, whatever interface you got, put port fast there and you'll see if it is enabled or not. That concludes our look at port fast. I believe uplink fast is coming up next, and I will see you on that video.